Welcome to the Greenway Outdoors podcast. The Greenway Outdoors is also an internationally syndicated TV show on Pursuit Channel and Wild TV. You are now tuned into our weekly podcast hosted by executive producer Kyle Green, production coordinator Jeff Hutchinson, director AJ Beadle, and creative producer Ryan Parks. We live in a world where our natural resources are almost solely protected by funds raised by hunters and fishermen, with over 60% of those funds coming from white males over the age of 55. The Greenway Outdoors team has set out on a mission to create content that would inspire millennials, Generation Z, and new sportsmen and women to get out, hunt, fish, and contribute towards conservation and the betterment of our planet. Welcome to the Greenway Outdoors. Hello and welcome to episode 38 of the Greenway Outdoors podcast. I'm Kyle.
I'm Jeff.
I'm AJ.
I'm Ryan.
Before the music's going in, I'm nervous. I'm like, it's 38, right? It's 38. Is it 38? Is it 38? And they're all just staring at me.
A lot of things.
What?
You never said, is it? You just started saying a number.
38.
38. 38.
Like, somebody
He's
answer
having
me.
a stroke. It's happening.
Well, wow, I can't make a stroke
No.
joke, can I? Nope.
You can.
If it was
Nope.
golf
I'd be
joke,
okay
No,
with
I
it.
don't think you could. It's not
golf
New Year's
segue.
Eve, and you can't do that right now. So you can't. Oh, there it is, and there it is. The worst joke I've ever made on this entire.
I don't get
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
That's okay, kiddo.
It
nice.
happened before you were born.
Something you will get. We'll catch some fire for that one. But what else is catching fire? Is
Oh, God.
the Amazon. Dude, my
That was
transitions
good.
are so good.
was
now.
good.
Yeah, I'm like so
AJ
good
always loves them.
I'm like so good at
They're not
transitions.
easy.
Ryan, I know you're the expert on this subject, so I'd like to know. And here's something I found interesting. So I was on a call today with our friends over at Bucked Up Supplements. Bucked Up. I'm not saying a swear word. Hear me through now.
He's
like
not
a
being
deer.
censored.
Not being censored. And we were talking about the Amazon fire, and they were actually saying that there's conspiracy theorists out there that don't believe it's happening.
We kind of talked about that on the way
A little
here.
bit.
And then I was
we-
like, but it's visible from space. He's like, well, can you go to space? I was like, all right, you got me. That's a pretty good
Don't
point.
even get me started on space. Oh, yeah, there's a big thing in the sky, space.
What? That's there's conspiracy.
I think it's a
theories
real
out there.
thing.
Yeah, I doubt they're like saying that it's that. But Ryan's gonna know a whole lot more than we are.
Okay, well, I'll start by I'm not an expert on it.
Okay. Well,
I
how could
did
anybody? It just happened.
I did read up on it, and so there's an insane wildfire going in the Amazon that all of a sudden everyone's freaking out about. But what I find interesting is, from what I read, they've counted, and I don't know how they've counted these, I don't know how they're measuring this, that starting in January, there's been roughly 73,000 wildfires from then to now.
What do you mean? Everywhere in the world?
No, in the rainforest,
Yeah,
in
just-
the Amazon.
Well, they do
area.
controlled fires all the time.
But
They're just talking about wildfires.
But think
Yeah.
73,000 is a pretty high number.
They do something with burning for the livestock, like their livestock in the Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that right?
I did not read anything about that.
Yeah.
I just read specifically on this issue, and I kind of went down a few rabbit trails.
Yeah.
Because
It was a good topic to look into.
Yeah, this one's really interesting to me because people say like the Amazon's the lungs of the earth, and so I was thinking about that because I had heard this somewhere else that a lot of our oxygen doesn't come from plants like we think it does. They do produce oxygen, but not as much as we think they do. A lot of our oxygen, they think somewhere between 50 to like 80% of our oxygen comes from the oceans, from something called the phytoplankton. And every spring they bloom, and then that's where a lot of our oxygen
Don't
comes
worry,
from.
we pollute that too.
I'm sure we do.
We
Put
got
a
it
nice
covered.
layer of garbage right over top.
Don't worry, we got that covered too.
So, it was interesting to me that everyone, the lungs of the earth, and it's a lot of people just kind of like jumping on the bandwagon, like, oh, I'm gonna.
I'm seeing a consistent meme that I'm seeing online because, like I said, this is August 22nd, 2019, and we're discussing it as it's happening. So on August 28th, we may sound like the biggest idiots ever,
Yeah,
because of what we're speculating now. But one of the so I just want to clear that up.
I like the
Yeah. But on Facebook and Instagram, I am seeing very consistently people posting that Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
You're just mad because you look like a hunchback. And, whoa! Shots
Sing.
fired. Shots fired. He's like, how could you? He's mad. But they're saying like billionaires rushed in to fix that right away and restore it and everything like that. So then they're saying like, where are you at, 1%ers?
What are they going to do?
Well, here's
what are they going to do?
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, you're always going to get the people that hate people that make money anyways. But my question is,
true.
What you said is like, well, Notre Dame, it's like, oh, damn, whatever.
Nice.
You got to fix it, and you pretty much know how.
Like, right.
That's a good point.
Okay, the church is going to say, okay, this is what it's going to cost us to fix it, and then you put in money, and it's a tally. Where do you throw money at the fire?
We need water.
It could be like
I don't know.
support for like the helicopters that drop the water, possibly. Yeah. I mean, I would assume.
Well, are they underfunded and parked right now? Not going to help?
I don't know.
I doubt that.
There's a lot of things we don't know.
That doesn't seem like something.
It was weirdly. We were talking about this, like it's like this has just exploded. So I don't expect there to be too much information. But it was like weirdly.
It's starting to seem like you don't have any.
Well, no, I mean, there is.
It was like weirdly undercovered as far as like factual information.
Maybe that's why the conspiracy theorists are there.
There's surprisingly like little information. Like I read this article that was maybe a paragraph long, like about the whole thing. So it's like, why is there so much little information on a thing that could be potentially so big?
Another thing people are saying in those memes, where I gather all my...
oh, man.
I've done my research, okay? I've looked at the
They're political memes, okay?
Yeah.
And something that I'm consistently seeing as well is the conspiracy theorists that think it's not real, the people asking about the 1%ers, and the third one is complaining that it's not getting any press. Mm-hmm. So those are the three things that I'm seeing.
I saw one that said, and then we'll go back to like the actual information. But I saw,
You sure? All right, this is good.
I saw one that said all these people posting about the Amazon, but they won't do it. They won't actually make any effort to do anything about it. They'll just post about it on their social media.
Right.
And then it had the meme underneath of the farmer saying, it's not hard work, but it's honest work, or something.
Yeah.
It's hard work, but it's honest work, or something like that.
Yeah, that meme's been running around a lot. Where it's like this old farmer, and he's sitting there. It's like, it's not pretty work or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look it up because EE Energy. You keep talking, I'll let you know what it is in a second.
There was another one on the same line that was. It's like a big tank of water, and there's a hole, and the water's coming out, and it's like flex tape or something that you put over it, and it's supposed to stop the leak. And it's like privileged people who have nothing to do with the Amazon or the fire, and they're like, "We need to help," and then they slap the tape on it, and it's like, "We're praying for you." It's like, oh, that's gonna help. Thanks.
Yeah. So another thing I learned about it, the Amazon, is the amount of deforestation going on. Whether you agree with it or not, it's happening. At 3 times the rate that it was happening last year. So quite a bit. That's a lot. There's a lot going on. And Brazil also has the largest amount of cattle farms in the world. Like, they're the biggest supplier of cattle in the entire world.
Didn't know that.
And so they have both of the combination of those two. So they're clearing land for the animals and clearing the land for wood and everything. And what I'm on the fence about is, because of this big change that's happening to the ecosystem, is it because of that, or is it because of just naturally wildfires tend to happen? Like, because I know here in the States we do controlled burns all the time because it helps that.
And California does uncontrolled burns all the time.
So, and a lot of times when you do these controlled burns, the vegetation and the animals come back and they flourish much better than they were beforehand. I don't know if that's supposed to happen.
Old forests don't support life. New growth does.
Right.
And there's actual trees that won't release their seeds until there's a fire.
Yep. So I don't know how much that correlates with the rainforest.
Yeah, because we don't know how big it really is.
Right.
Like, is it like
the fire?
Last year's California wildfires big, or is it like just exceptionally bigger than that?
Well, one of the things that I read was someone was like, "Of course there is. There always is. That's how they do the things for the cattle." That's where I read that, and I was like, "Why is there no clear-cut information on this?"
Mm-hmm. Like, that's kind of what I'm.
And then the other thing, I was like, "Okay, well, when something happens in California." You've got 1 million people with video cameras, 1 million people with cell phones, helicopters, unlimited amount of funding, and to see, know, and speculate on what's going on. The Amazon rainforest, when you have to say, oh, it's visible from space, that leads me to believe that you don't have a lot of cameras on the story either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what I said.
Because like, duh. So is
no
Michigan.
kidding. Yeah,
no
that's
shit.
true.
So it's like,
Yeah.
my thought is like, maybe there's just not a whole lot of people there that know how to. Because also, if you look it up, there was like 5 pictures for me to choose from for the B-roll.
I mean, it's not a habitable place. I mean, it's not meant for humans. So why would there really wouldn't
Right.
be humans on site unless
or
you're in
if
a
they
helicopter?
are, the humans that are there
you know.
do not have video cameras.
I would assume not.
I did read a thing that said that at this
they do.
point there is enough smoke that it has like literally engulfed, and then they said a large portion of I think Brazil,
Sao Paulo.
but I don't know
Was
what
the
a
rumor.
large portion is. Is that like 10%?
Well, I had read that
50%? Is it like
there was a blackout apparently due to a lot of smoke in Sao Paulo,
okay.
Sao Paulo.
but it was caused from a different fire in Paraguay.
Oh, so
they were kind of like,
unrelated.
well, no, but they were kind of like saying like the Amazon forest
That's what I'm
is
saying.
part of that, but they said it was a completely different.
Maybe
fire.
they're just not getting a good fix on it.
But
is what I'm saying.
then maybe like half of Brazil is on fire right now, and we have no clue.
Right.
Like, is there a reason why there's so little information?
To Ryan's joke, jumping back to the meme real quick. This one's from Yee Apparel, Granger Smith Apparel Company. It says, when someone asks you if you really make Yee memes for a living, and his thing, the farmer on it says, it ain't much, but it's honest work.
Yeah, that's
so
what it is.
What was the, so?
People posting about the Amazon wildfire, but won't actually do anything about it.
It ain't much, but it's honest work.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's a good one.
Classy, that
It
is.
was funny. But I also, because I thought of this because of all the deforestation going on, a lot of times when you clear out a large area, and it's like this in Michigan, when you see the clear cuts, there's a lot of leftover brush. Lots and lots of leftover brush. Is that what is burning? Is these big, just like massive amounts of fields? Like, it's just burning brush.
everything-
It's just much more likely to burn because it's just dead brush.
Everything goes up in flames immediately, unless you're really cold trying to start a fire, or you're trying to start a campfire and there's 9 girls watching you speculating on how
Now
well
there's
you're
something
doing.
fragile.
You
You're
gotta be the one to
hope
light
this
it.
doesn't catch on fire.
Yeah, those things for sure are.
Very true.
So I think there's too many variables going on right now to really speculate on what's going on, and like we were talking about earlier, like they always say like with Hurricane Harvey, it's like the biggest in it's the biggest in history.
The biggest one in history. It's always as of the last couple of years, a lot of storms, a lot of things have been
In recorded history.
and that's
Right,
the point.
and that's the point I brought up. Is I don't really care when someone says that. It means nothing to me because it's.
If it happened a buck 20 ago, you're not gonna know about it.
Right. I've taken self note of like when they started recorded things, and it's really like mid to late 1800s is when things started getting recorded, and how accurate is that?
Yeah, do they have the equipment that we have to even test what, well, that's a Category 5 for sure. Oh, there goes a house. That's Category 6. That's a new thing now.
Yep.
And write it down. I mean,
Right. And so in the grand scheme of things, 150 years
their
is
weatherman
not
stuck
that
his
long.
hand outside to feel what the weather was back then.
and 100 years in comparison to time is just the most minuscule
right.
thing.
So when people say that, it means nothing to me. I don't care. Like this could have happened.
But there are a lot of first big ones of biggest storm, biggest snowstorm, biggest earthquake in the last 30 years. There's a lot of those too. So is it all just correlation to that?
Pretty sure something killed the dinosaurs. So until we know what that was, I'm going to
Humans
say
and pollution, clearly.
So it's
You
more
don't
than
know about
just
Pangea.
what's going on. It's a weird topic.
Yeah.
Look into it. There's not much out there.
Yeah, there's really not. And I'd like to read up more about it and
So
figure
the
out.
summary is, because you were commissioned to do this today, that you probably spent, fair to say, a couple hours on this.
Yeah.
And the result is we only have a growing amount of opinions with no real understanding of what's going on. And that's the current state of the truth right now.
Right. I personally would like to
You're
find
right.
out more about this because it's just interesting to me. What's really is this really human
just
caused?
tell me what's going on.
Is it from humans and the cattle and the deforestation and all that, or is it just happens to be natural because that's what forests do?
Yeah. The other thing that will be interesting too is, you ever notice like with certain news stories or certain pandemics or certain scary things or certain whatever, like the week later, you don't even remember because no one talks about it anymore. I could totally see this because it didn't get the news press that this could be the thing that, like, in a week, everyone's like, what were they even talking about? What fire?
Unless it gets substantially worse, or they're able to control it, and then it's just until it's out.
I also wonder, like, how detrimental it'll really be. People are saying, like, the lungs of the world, right? Well, young growth is what supports the most life. Now, rainforest typically always has a lot of young growth, but who knows? This might be like fantastic for.
Right.
Well, if you remember that Netflix documentary,
I know. I've been waiting to say it. I had it right in my. Yep.
I mean, they kind of showed that, like, the Amazon produces things that the other side of the world needs,
right?
Kind of thing,
and vice versa. Like the fertilizer that is. I talked about it today. I was like, wow,
no
I
one's
get to
talking
use
about
that
it.
piece of information that I didn't think I'd ever use again. But essentially, the dust from the Middle East and the desert goes up into the atmosphere, and it's got all kinds of stuff in it, and then it goes over and gets rained in the Amazon, and that's the fertilizer that makes the Amazon work.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
so
cool.
like, so it's so funny that the countries like go to war and stuff. To be clear, I'm not condoning a one world government. I am against it, but I'm saying that it's so funny that, like, we think what they're doing over there doesn't matter. With the desert is what sustains the Amazon, and it also, to me, is always like a little symbol of, like, how on earth do you expect me to believe, or how in any infinity do you expect me to believe that we are all here by accident and this entire system was not designed?
Yeah,
I can't buy into
the
it.
way everything just
it's like a big circle.
Yeah,
circle of life.
It's like no, we're a freak accident. We climbed out of sludge.
Yeah.
I just can't get behind it.
It's good to be educated on those things, because we didn't know about that, and that was a nice little tool.
I got a question for all of you. I was gonna be specific, but now I don't want to be. Because I want Ryan's opinion, I want AJ's opinion, and I want Jeff's opinion, because I think they'll range. But when you're in school, I remember in school being taught about evolution, and I remember being like, I remember thinking evolution was a bad word because of, like, church and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But then, like, as I, like, grew up, I was like, well, no, evolution's definitely very real. It's the Big Bang where the real difference would change. Because here's the thing, and I was curious, like, what your guys' thoughts on this from, like, the biblical standpoint, but also
is that water good, Jeff?
Yeah, why don't you mute it when you do that?
Oh man.
But anyhow, now everyone knows it's him. He's like, darn it, no. He throws the water bottle, loses his mind. But here's the thing: we're gonna name them cephalopods.
Nice.
This is from Men in Black.
Nice.
But so this little critter called a cephalopod that doesn't exist. Most of them are born.
Pretty sure cephalopods are a thing. Maybe not what it is in Men in Black.
You saw the something neuralizer to a something cephalopod. Anyhow, cephalopod. We're gonna say it is a
cephalopoid.
It is a
doesn't matter.
beaver-sized rat-looking critter that feeds on mice.
Okay.
So
nice.
None of them have claws. Let's say, okay, but one of them gets born with a freak gene that he ends up getting claws.
He's got a toenail.
Well, now he's going to be more successful hunting. He's more likely to reproduce. His kids have a chance of having that same gene. Those ones will be more successful. And then over time, you could see how 1,000 years later, they might all be that way. You know what I mean? That's
a long time.
And it is a long time. And you can see, like, how fast something can reproduce. Let's look at the carp we were just talking about last week, the Asian carp. So the people in Asia have thought it was nuts that our carp jump out of the water, because one carp had that gene, or a grouping of carp had that gene. Then those are the ones that are here now, and those are the ones that are in our waterways, and they jump out of the water, and look how the plethora of... I know, right? A big word.
That's great.
The plethora of carp that we have now, I almost said magic carp, like Pokemon, which would have made me a total... And there's one Gyarados out there. But anyhow, so you've got all these carp out there that all have that gene, and you can see how much that could explode. So to me, like, I always knew that, I'm like, when I was, like, taught evolution was bad, I'm like, well, no, that's kind of practical sense. If a critter has something that makes it better in its genes, and then he reproduces and passes that on, and they're more successful over a long course of time, you could see where there would be a shift, where there'd be more of those than not, and then eventually that's what they have. And so how could you deny that? I mean, you even see it in human beings in athletics. I mean, that's not a
I wouldn't say it's necessarily, because I've watched a few things on this. It's not necessarily evolution. I forget what they called it, but
You look so much like your dad when you said that. The way you started your sentence, it reminded me of your dad. But go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
It's not necessarily evolution, but it's just what did they call it? I forget what they called it, but it's just the traits get, by chance sometimes in nature, get matched up, and so that one gets magnified in the next animal. So it's like that with dogs. Dogs originally started, and they actually did a study.
They're genetically modified.
Right. And sometimes in nature that just happens by chance. And I watched this documentary. They did it with foxes. They just took 2 wild foxes, kept breeding them, and what they would do is every time the foxes had a litter, they would wait till the pups delivered a personality, and the calmer ones, the ones that tend to be more docile, even though they would still be aggressive, they would set them aside and take the more aggressive ones. They'd separate them and then breed them again and keep doing that. And sooner or later, you had foxes that were pets, and they were nice, and because they were able to just take those traits.
Are they for sale? No, I'm just kidding.
And so you had the super nice foxes that could deal with anybody. They were just like little puppies and dogs.
Wow.
Like you could be around them all day.
They're taking
And
ingredients out.
right,
you know.
But the other group,
They did that with wolves. That's why we have corgis.
There you go.
A corgi is somehow down the line
That's-
from a wolf.
that's
like riddle me that.
That's
So that's
brilliant.
basically what happened. And so you had the nice group of foxes, and then you had this group that was like you couldn't go near the cage, whatever they were keeping him, because they just wanted to kill you.
Yeah.
So it's in like, I think it's not necessarily evolution. It's just nature's way of figuring itself out and adapting.
But couldn't you say that?
Because when I imagine evolution,
Adapting's a
it's
good
like
point.
the
You think of sludge
plankton.
to us. You think of monkeys to us.
Yes.
Which
Yeah, that
I,
one's
I
weird.
don't think is. Yeah,
That one's weird.
Yeah. I don't believe that we're monkeys, and also they're still monkeys. But I'm saying, like, for me, I'm saying, like, to use the word evolution, I guess I would have to look at the definition too. But I'm like, well, of course things would evolve over time because they would get better because of that happening naturally, which to me is God made. Like, he put that system in place for, like, a reason, because unless he's down here going, okay, now you got 2 paws, now you got this, now you got that, you would think in his infinite wisdom that he knows that the earth is going to continually change. So if the earth is going to continually change and it's built that way, then the critters on there are going to continually change too. So the system is put in place. Whether you believe in God or not is up to you. Whether you believe that's by chance, God bless you. It's I always found it fascinating that the term evolution could have a meaning that, like, that, well, of course, though, like that, but to that level, but to say, we came from monkeys, I think is completely laughable.
Right.
But there the different creatures develop, but we're getting smarter than we were. Like,
we're getting taller. We're living longer.
We're
Getting dumber at the same time.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know. Yeah, I know.
It's like the foxes. Some are getting better, some aren't.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it's funny, but and they're saying now that some primates are now what they believe were at the stage of the very, very, very beginning of the Neanderthal as far as processing of information.
Really?
They think,
I have heard that.
They think that the monkeys now are at a new stage of what they were, and I don't doubt that monkeys can get smarter and bears can get smarter, because I know a lot of really smart, educated ducks, because I've been educating them for, 15 years of like, hey, if you come near those
That's a good
plastic
point, yeah.
decoys, I'm going to educate
Don't
you, because
go
I'm
on-
going to miss.
80 yards up, nail them.
People underestimate the intelligence of animals.
Oh, for sure.
The way they
It's the turkey's fault.
Every moment,
turkey's
every
fault.
waking moment is just pure survival. Everything is out to kill you, and so
completely
you're
different mindset.
You're 100% aware of everything, and people underestimate that.
I think the reason why people don't underestimate animals is because of the turkey. You couldn't convince any law-abiding citizen that walked into a farm and saw turkeys that thing was smart. You couldn't. And
Or that had the best vision of all the animals.
I've killed the dumbest turkeys in the world, and I've killed some real smart turkeys. You guys killed a smart turkey.
Yeah.
If he wouldn't have been chasing that hen around all over that field, you would have never got him. I'm so excited about your mount.
I know.
Your
I think
first
about it
mount's
every
so
once in a while
cool.
too. I'm excited.
When Christmas comes, you can be excited. That's about when it's done. That's about when it'll be done.
Yeah.
But the difference between the Big Bang and creation is very distinct. And to say that every sign of life that we have comes from sludge and lightning and some big spark and boom that came out of nowhere, I just couldn't get to. But I remember being told that evolution was incorrect, and I remember learning it in school and closing my mind off, which wasn't a good thing, I don't think. I think I should hear both sides pretty fairly.
That's a good,
You know what else?
That's great.
I guess for us, our opinion on this, because I think we agree on that, right?
Yeah, I don't think we disagreed at all.
Probably
go to dinner after this.
Yeah, probably. It's not necessarily evolution; it's just adaptation.
Right.
You're just adapting to what's going on around you. You have to to be able to survive. That's just what you have to do.
Right.
I heard this thing once. I have no clue whether this has been proven or not, but I had heard that humans are growing longer pinkies because of how much typing we do on computers. That we are
really
slowly. The average
so
of pinky length is going up just a little bit.
40 years, so however many generations.
Yeah, but how long would
typewriters have been around for?
That's a good point.
A good bit.
Well done.
Right. Yeah,
I have no clue
Thanks.
how true that is, but I'd heard that at one point, and if that is true, that's interesting.
Evolution, whatever you want to call it, is a span of thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So if you factor in, that point, that 40, 50, 60 years is a pretty small percentage. So maybe it's just in that transition of 300 years from now, it will be extensively longer, and maybe this is the beginning of that point, kind of thing.
Right.
You also got to think that we're changing the world so rapidly. I wonder if evolution is
also rapidly changing,
speeding up with it to keep up with us.
Right.
I don't know. I think tech moves a lot faster than natural order.
Yeah, sure. Everything else.
So who knows?
We're not smart. It was Elon Musk who said we're not even really smart enough to have the tech and the capabilities that we do. And the next phase of it was in a book, but the guy said that I don't know what World War III, what weapons we'll fight with. But I know that in World War IV we'll be using sticks and stones again.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of a
good point.
Interesting concept.
Yeah, no
scary one.
So hope we don't get there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
It's bound to happen.
Let's get along, folks.
Let's hope not.
Well, this was quite the shootout.
I couldn't wait.
We started with wildfires in the Amazon.
One more point I wanted to make on this topic, actually, I find interesting, is public school that Jeff and I went to. They actually now, in the science class, because of irrefutable as evidence of creation being more and more likely, that science is leading so much in that direction.
It really is.
And it's being proven to such a strong regard that now in public schools, and a lot of them, they're teaching what they call intelligent design.
Interesting.
So I'm sure they're making it aliens that did it, but I'm just saying, the idea.
Intelligent design. I never heard that once in school. So.
Yeah, it's after us, and that's not. We weren't. It wasn't that long ago for us.
I don't. When I was, because I'm 10 years younger than you guys, I don't ever remember being taught.
I'm just kidding.
I'm young and healthy and perfect, and you guys are wrong.
It's just Jeffrey with the issues. No. What issues?
I don't remember ever being taught evolution was everyone knew about it, but it wasn't like we were taught that in science class or anything.
Really?
That wasn't a topic of conversation.
It was a good 2-week thing, probably.
Yeah.
Ours, Mrs. Stahl did it with us. And I remember Mrs. Stahl giving a speech, and I think that this was a pretty common speech that happened. You and I took zoology together, but other than that, you were in all smart classes, and I was in all dumb classes, so we didn't have any together.
I'm excited to hear the story that you have.
Yeah. She started off by saying, first and foremost, for everybody in here, I want you to know that I'm not saying specifically that you need to believe this. I'm only telling everyone that this is a theory, and this is a theory that you need to understand and prove that you can understand it in test form. I'm not telling you have to believe it. I'm not telling you I believe it. But this is a theory, talking about the Big Bang and evolution, that you have to know about in order to pass the class.
That's a good way of putting it.
So, yeah, I'm sure, well, it was her probably 6th or 7th year already, so she's already had. She learned.
No, it is not.
Yeah. You get me refusing to take the test, and I probably would have at the time. I was a little stubborn guy, but that made enough sense. But now, and maybe she's at the forefront of this, is why. But at the public school level, I know for a fact that in public schools, not all of them, obviously, they're teaching evolution, Big Bang, intelligent design.
So what's the side of intelligent design? What is that?
There's a higher power.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
It's like a combination.
if you were to write
A public school way of
if you were to write
Yeah.
if you were to write Genesis, the book of Genesis in the Bible, but you were to make it without using like
Things.
that it was spoken to
Yeah.
and this and that and everything else, and you just talked about how the proof is lining up. One more thing, way off topic, that I want to touch on too, for the people that the proof in the Bible thing. I really like this. So you know Noah's Ark, obviously.
Yeah, I've seen the
A lot
movie.
of people don't know this. You're not gonna believe how it ends. So Noah's Ark crash landed. I don't remember.
It's like in the Himalayas, I think.
Yeah, it's in the mountains though, and it said in the Bible where it was. The problem is getting there is like next to impossible.
Inhabitable.
It's
Is that
it's next to impossible. Like
Okay.
because of weather, there's only like a couple weeks a year that you could even remotely get up there if you had the right blah 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 blah
Yep.
blah. Well, now they've gotten up there and they found it right where it said it would be.
Really?
Yeah, and
They
it's
found
like,
like 3 of them.
what do you mean?
There's been all sorts of, like.
Oh, I only know
Remnants
about the
of the
one.
ark?
I'm not
Huh?
gonna say it's like Bigfoot, where like this person saw Bigfoot, this person saw Bigfoot, but I've seen several documentaries where like these people found what they think was Noah's Ark here, and then these people found Noah's Ark in this entirely different place, but they have all this evidence that says it's actually Noah's Ark. So there's like 4 or 5 of them. I feel like
The
that I've
Bible was
seen.
pretty specific on where it would be, though, and even like it's like pretty specific. And that's the one that I know about that was found basically where it said it would be. And it's like funny to see it because it's like built into the mountainside now, because you can imagine the deterioration over time and everything like that. And it's like,
I mean, yeah.
it's pretty cool. I'll show you the picture after.
Yeah.
But for those of non-believers,
I didn't
it's
know
kinda
that.
a cool thing. Yeah.
There's lots of cases like that where stories in the Bible, like when
Very provable. We went way on it. We literally, so far on our list, all we had to cover
number
I
one.
kinda
was
thought
number
it was
one.
gonna-
Yeah,
which
woo!
is funny from a story where Ryan says, "Well, I researched this, but there's not a whole lot on it."
32 minutes later.
Noah's Ark. I'm surprised we didn't foresee that we were going to talk about Noah's Ark and have some B-roll for it.
Yeah, that's my bad.
Things happen.
When Moses split the Red Sea when they were escaping the Egyptians.
Yeah, they found
So once they all got across, the sea closed up
On the soldiers.
on the Egyptian soldiers in the story, and not that long ago they found chariots down there and everything. And
Really?
Yeah.
Is it,
It's a long walk. They left some stuff.
I mean,
Well, it's not a long walk.
sediment.
You understand the water crashed on him.
things got
I know,
obliterated.
but like once he parted it and they started walking, like it's not like it was a hop, skip, and then they're on the other side. Like it was a
Yeah.
long.
Like they had to do a
was-
hike
it
across
was a
The
hike
chariots,
that
the,
we left
the
some
bad
stuff.
guy chariots.
Yeah, the bad guy. Yeah, because they had all gotten across, and then it closed up, and then those were just
They were
it
drowned.
remained down there.
Yeah.
It was just interesting.
That's a really cool thing, too.
Things are weird.
Speaking of things in water, there's a funny floating tent story that I wanted to cover. So this is a new product. Well, actually, it's not new. It's been out for a little while now. But for whatever reason, Jeffrey sent us this dumb article, and I didn't even read
It
it.
was trending on Twitter.
But apparently,
Really?
yeah, and since we're hip, not hipsters, but we're hip, I decided that we would cover the story. Essentially, it was like, think of all the bad ideas and bad inventions that are out there. So this conversation will not get us an endorsement from the company, but they're like, hey, why would you, this is the pitch, why would you sleep on the shore in a tent when you could just sleep on the river? And then somebody said,
Oh man.
there was so many funny replies. One of them
the
was
best
like,
new way to drown. Or like,
yeah.
Something like
Everybody
that.
was like, why have a firework when I could light it off in my mouth? You know what I mean? Like it was like just everything about dying
One
from
of
it.
them was like, imagine, you go out camping, you set up your tent, but you can put it on the river, you anchor it out, you fall asleep under the stars, You wake up, it's a beautiful morning, you're wrapped real tight in a sleeping bag that's wrapped real tight in a deflated tent, and you're drowning.
Oh yeah, you can't get out.
Yeah, because
It looks like something you would if you survived a plane crash and the safe
It does.
thing,
Yeah.
that's what it would look like.
I watched I Shouldn't Be Alive the other day, and the guy was in a emergency raft because his yacht sunk. Mm-hmm. And it looked so much like that now that you say that. It's not even crazy.
I bet his inflatable is like nicer than most people's boats if he's coming around on a yacht.
Yeah. No, it was a small yacht and he was poor. And it got a hole in it because he finally got.
It was an inflatable yacht.
He harpooned a fish, brought the fish up to the surface, and then the fish scraped his boat and put a hole in it. So then he couldn't stand it anymore. He lived in the raft for 73 days.
Holy cow!
Yeah, with only with like those little water things that do water.
Life straw?
Yeah. No. They're like military
like
grade.
An evaporation
yeah,
system.
they're like little evaporation. They're like bubbles, and then it separates the salt from the water. And it was, oh my gosh.
Almost,
like
maybe?
Watching it, I was like, that's it, man. And then every time he had like a spear gun, and then that broke first day. Figured that'd be me. Like,
oh man,
thank God
Japanese piece of crap, And then so he took to just stabbing fish when they came close enough. So he only got like one fish every 7 days.
Wow.
And then the distilled water only gave him like 3 tablespoons every hour, which is just enough to be miserable, but alive still. And he just 73 days in that thing. And then when he got a fish, and then it cut the bottom of the boat or the raft, so then he couldn't stand anymore, so he had to lay all day, and all the sores he had from the salt water and the thing, and then like the only water he had, and then he went right by boats, but they didn't see him, like within 100 yards, and he couldn't get their attention because there's only like 3 staff on it because he was in like certain straits, and he ended up getting
by himself on a yacht. What?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, he had just gotten a divorce, and his life was in shambles, so he just ran away, and then didn't tell anybody, so then no one was looking for him. That was a great story. He ended up crashing up into some islands, and some fishermen picked him up, and he weighed like 92 pounds, and it was just an awful story, but he survived.
Yeah,
so that's pretty crazy. I like those things. There's like 42
true story.
We're getting
at. This is one of the tweets that says, "Alligators," in quotations. Oh shoot, we got DoorDash now.
Oh, like because they get to eat the people. I like it.
Oh wow, okay.
For the tent thing. That is a good one. Jeffrey, was this one you? Not all people that fish know how to hunt, but basically everyone that can hunt can fish. I found this interesting too. Ryan, I want your feedback on it. It was me, it wasn't Jeffrey. I thought of this in the shower. Okay.
Nice. Shower thoughts. Not all people that fish know how to hunt, but basically everyone that can hunt can fish.
Exactly. So why do you think that is? That's a fact. I'm not looking for dispute on it.
That's a
think
fact.
about it.
With me.
Don't question it.
Everyone I know that hunts is like, yeah, I can fish too. I do fish or whatever else here and there.
That's a hard thing to like measure.
Yeah.
So
no,
I
it's
think
not.
you're wrong.
I know, but I know tons of people that fish that do not hunt.
I think even when you're fishing, there's this like, in a sense, you're hunting in a way. It's like if you're like brook trout, you're almost like stalking the animal. You have to be very gentle on the ground. You have to like kind of slowly slip into the area,
right,
and place your shot correctly. And so I think they correlate really well together, which if you always fish, it's not necessarily the same.
You're going to pick up a gun.
Yeah, and it's different tools are used, and like if you're hunting deer or whatever, turkey, you can be spotted, you can be smelled, anything. It seems like there's a lot more variables.
It's also a lot more accessible.
Well, I think in my shower, I arrived at the idea that the expense to get into hunting and the intimidation of firearms, as opposed to just about everybody learns how to fish as a kid. Mm-hmm. That like there's probably, but would you say there's more fishermen, people that consistently fish, than there are hunters?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would think so.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Worldwide, probably.
I don't know that.
I would agree with that.
I don't disagree. I just don't know.
I'm sure there's something on it.
But I just found it real funny that like everybody that hunts is like, oh yeah, I fish.
Yeah.
But I know so many people that fish that do not hunt.
Right. That's why I think there's more fish. Because someone could go fishing once a year and they're like, oh yeah, I fish. And then they tell you their dumb story about how they went to some crazy lake, but they still consider themselves a fisherman.
Oh, by the way, update on the last week. The guy that we talked about on the podcast about getting passive aggressive with me about the hunting stuff has never replied again.
Oh, nice. I like the update.
Hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you haven't listened to it, go to episode 37. It is on the Greenway Outdoors YouTube.
I would say that there are more self-proclaimed pros in fishing than there are hunting.
Yeah. In the spirit of nostalgia, as we've been talking about the Bible and everything else today, we're actually going to be talking about a couple heroes of mine, Lewis and Clark, who I'd like to think are just a much more well-collected, smarter, and much older versions of Jeff and I. Stay tuned. You're a hunter, and because you hunt, you're the world's greatest conservationist. You're a huntervationist. You do more for wildlife and conservation than anyone. The Sportsman Alliance protects hunters from the animal rights movement. When the Sportsman Alliance gets involved in court cases or legislation, hunters win. Conservation wins. Become a huntervationist today and join the Sportsman Alliance like we did to help protect your rights against the animal rights movement.
Hot Shot Outfitters in Port Hope, Michigan is the destination for whitetail deer, crow, waterfowl, rabbit, predator, and turkey hunts. We have cabins, over 30,000 non-fenced acres, and a passion for delivering fair chase hunts to you and your family. Reserve your hunt at hotshotoutfitters.com today.
When your hands are busy, your mind gets right. When your hands are busy, you can't point fingers and complain that life isn't fair. When your hands are busy, you're serving your family, your friends, and your community. When your hands are busy, you show everyone what you're capable of. The all-new Ram 1500, Motor Trend's 2019 Truck of the Year.
Hello and welcome back to the Greenway Outdoors podcast. Thank you to our wonderful sponsors for the awesome commercial break. So, Jeffrey.
Yes, sir.
I can only imagine that when people watch our television show, they sometimes are just shaking their head, like, how did these two idiots get a TV show? And the situations we put ourselves in, and the funny dramas and horrible situations we've been in our life while hunting and fishing. I'd like to think that, you know, the cool people that Lewis and Clark were probably had similar stupid experiences here and there, too.
I'd like to think that the people who watch our show would see us as, like, pioneers.
Explorers.
We explore how not to do things a lot, but...
Right, yeah.
So Lewis and Clark, for the people who don't know, were these explorers that decided they wanted to chart out the United States. They wanted to get from the Missouri River to the Pacific. I don't know if we fully knew what the Pacific was at that point or exactly how maps were or whatever, but this was like really early 1800s. A lot of people picture them as just Lewis and Clark, and then I don't remember her name, but there
Sacagawea.
Was it Sacagawea?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just
watch
the three
your
of them. A lot of times when they depict this, you see just the three of them, but there's actually 30 people in their group.
No, it was an expedition. There was a lot of people.
I remember being in a big herd.
A big group. So they travel all the way from the Missouri River to the Pacific. 30 people in the group. They have like 600 some sites that they charted on their way across the country. And all of these stops, they made camp. On all the camps, they built latrines because you got to go somewhere. And they've been able to track where Lewis and Clark went based on the latrines because of medical knowledge at the time.
For those who don't know, what's a latrine?
A latrine is a place where you go to the bathroom.
Because I didn't know.
You poop.
Yeah, you poop.
Drop bombs on them. Sorry, I'm just helping.
So there were these things, they called them thunderclaps or thunderbolts.
And the latrine thing?
No, this
that's what
is
they
a
call their
medical
poop?
term.
Oh, I thought we were still talking poop.
So
All
a
right.
thunderclap
Whoa,
is
the old thunderclap. We better cut this podcast short. I got to take a serious thunderclap. Okay.
it's a laxative that they would take.
The thunderclap?
Imagine they call it the thunderclap.
Wow.
It works pretty good.
I like these
Turns
guys.
out it's mostly mercury.
Oh, nice.
They were just taking large amounts of mercury, and it's like, I guess it
That'll
works
do
as
ya.
a antibacterial. They were using it to treat all sorts of other stuff.
Everything that it doesn't do.
But the latrine pits were like lined with mercury.
Wow.
And they traced that, and that's how they've been able to find these spots where Lewis and Clark stopped, because they were doing this god-awful, stupid medical thing.
That would be. You know what I like about that?
And there's probably no backing behind it. When
I've never heard anything like that. I've never heard that story ever.
No.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
I'd like to guess that someday people are going to be like, they held cell phones up to their head? Are they so stupid?
That's a good point.
Did they not notice the uptick in cancer?
That is absolutely. We're doing something like that today.
That's
for sure.
For sure.
There's all
What about
sorts of stuff. So that got me to look, and I'm like, well, what other things do we have that either we did that were dumb, or that we do right now that maybe we think are dumb, but other people in the world totally normal to them? And one of the main ones I found was
Rice.
urine therapy.
Oh, God.
Urine therapy?
Yeah.
What is that?
Ingesting it, using it as a topical, washing your hair with it. I watched a whole thing about people in Peru who wash
would
their
watch
hair
a
with
thing
urine.
about
I've got a Rolodex of jokes.
I know.
And nope, can't do. No,
No.
nope.
I like that.
Nope.
Just gonna sit
Nope.
quiet.
Okay.
Urine
It's just
therapy
gonna
has
sit
been
quiet.
used for all sorts of things, from teeth whitening to acne treatments. So there you go. That's a good one for you.
Wait, you just
Oh.
pee on someone's face?
Jellyfish bites?
Strep throat and broken bones.
What?
So pretty much anything. And I feel like that's just a way for people with weird tendencies to go, hey, I bet if I pee on you,
I can't.
Is
it'll
tendencies
get
the
better.
right word?
How did jellyfish not make the cut?
Oh, for him?
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's
I was waiting for that
like
one.
But
stings,
again,
you know.
that's a thing that is like, I don't know if it's like a...
I've been stung by
heard
a
that's a
sea
myth.
urchin, and
It's
I
a
had a girl
thing
pee on
that-
me, and it didn't help. That happened.
I'll admit it.
Elena did that. Remember? I got
that's
stung by a
because
sea
that's
urchin in Jamaica.
Sea urchin, it's jellyfish. stupid.
No. The guy told me. Well, I guess I don't even know.
That's all I've heard. That's what I've heard.
It was so funny though. I was chasing a fish. I bet a guy on shore that I could catch a fish with my bare hands. He bet me I couldn't. So there was like sea enemas down there with the little tentacles that would like zap the fish.
Enemas?
Yeah, I don't know.
Anemones?
Urchins?
You sound like Nemo.
Anemones?
Oh God, I know.
Anemone.
I watched Finding Nemo.
Okay, don't hurt
So
yourself.
I'm in the water. There's all these aminals around me.
Anyhow,
Anemones.
they were like the purple ones with like the little grabbies.
The urchins?
So what I did was not the urchins.
Anemones?
Yes. So what I did was I would go under and I was chasing the bait fish and I would go like this and they would brush up against it and it would zap them and that would give me enough time to grab
Oh,
them.
nice.
And that's how I was going
Short
to win the
stun.
bet. But while I was doing that, I kicked a sea urchin. It's funny because there's a picture of me holding the fish laughing with $10
Nice.
and also I'm on one foot because I got the other foot lifted up. I kicked the sea urchin and I looked back and I saw it look like a little black porcupine. And I come up and the guy goes to me, he goes, I was like, yeah, I kicked a sea urchin and this and that. What do I do? And I'm in a lot of pain. And he's like, have her pee on it. It'll make it feel better. He goes, well, wait. Was it black or red? I go, it was black. He goes, oh. I was like, I saw red ones.
Yeah, it
What
could
would
have been red.
You know, like, what?
You know what would have been better is if he's like, all right, man, you got the fish. Here's $10. Oh, you got stung by a sea urchin? It's going to have someone pee on you. I'll pee on you for $20.
I was waiting for the story to twist
There's
there.
two different people. But anyhow, so yeah, it was talking a girl into peeing on your foot.
Did it work?
It did not.
Oh.
I've heard that's a myth.
Yeah,
No.
it did
Well,
not.
she peed on his foot, so it worked.
Myth busted.
Yeah. Like the whole entire goal was to get her to pee on my foot. And I was like, I'll kick a sea urchin, say I won't. No. That was good, Jeff. That was sick, but good. Why don't you go on with the chlorophyll?
Nice.
No, I'm just kidding. What you're saying is interesting. I just wanted to quote
What
Billy
was the
Madison.
other one?
One of the other ones I found was a children's soothing syrup, which was
For
any
urine?
kind of like
Oh.
weird treatments.
I'm like,
for things.
come on, man. Those are kids.
Now, I've heard of kids earlier on being treated with use whiskey for toothache or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
They were treating kids with straight up heroin
Yeah.
for anything.
My mom did that.
For anything.
I'm kidding. That was a joke.
I looked at you.
Well, I mean,
what?
the earliest form of anesthesia was cocaine, so, I mean, it,
Sure.
you know.
Sure, they were
They put it in
using,
their cola.
Morphine, cannabis,
New and old.
Put it back.
heroin, powdered opium, all sorts of just
Things
they
we
could
figured
get
out
it
over
in
time.
the kid, just
Put it in
calms
there.
them down. Great.
At least we're not doing that anymore.
I think that's like the historical version of us just putting a kid in front of a TV. Just watch,
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse Funhouse or whatever that is.
Put them into some sort of coma. They're just sitting down tripping.
We're actively drugging our kids right now with like Ritalin and
Media.
Yeah.
No, you understand. We own a media company. Media is good.
No,
Ritalin
bad
bad.
media.
You said it. Glad we don't do that anymore. But when people go to the hospital, they still do that.
That's true.
They just pump them full of it. They literally have a button next to them. Oh, you're in pain? Press it.
Yeah. Well, they're doing that with kids that are like more active than the other kids or more.
Oh,
you
you're
know,
back to the Ritalin, not heroin.
Yeah. But like not even just Ritalin though. There's all sorts of different things
Yeah.
they give kids, and it's like
What's
maybe
the-
just
what's the
let
one
the
they-
kid.
They've been doing that since we were
Adderall.
kids.
Instead of the kid learning how to deal with his excess energy or his anger problems, just drug him up so that he never learns how to deal with it.
Turn him into
and
a
becomes
robot.
a dysfunctional adult. That's good.
Yeah.
That's
Have
quite
you-
the timeline.
and become dependent on drugs too. If you think we're against Ritalin, have you ever seen Tom Hanks lose his mind in an interview about Ritalin?
Really?
Tom
Yeah.
Hanks can lose his mind about anything.
No, wait.
Uh-oh.
Other
wait.
than losing a volleyball?
It was Brad Pitt.
Really?
Yeah.
Brad Pitt
Who's,
got mad?
who's Reacher?
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Okay, it was Tom Cruise.
Whoa.
Okay, let me start over. Tom Cruise.
That makes more sense.
Went berserk
Tom, you got
over
that.
Ritalin.
That makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Tom Hanks.
Tom
Brad
Hanks
Pitt.
has never gone crazy
Like
about
Tom
anything.
Hanks.
Brad Pitt. I don't know that Brad Pitt has gone crazy about anything either. Tom Cruise.
Yes.
There it is. Okay.
There it is.
It made sense.
Yeah, he went berserk over it.
That's funny.
Do you have any other cool Lewis and Clark facts other than they poop mercury everywhere and that's why we know where they went?
I've
That is
heard-
pretty cool.
I've heard
Hey, a paper trail.
I like how every picture of Lewis and Clark is
the
with
most epic thing ever.
no, it's not even that. There's
through the
always
scope.
an Indian showing him somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Native American, excuse me. Always showing him.
Sacagawea.
Yeah, showing him where to go.
Bless you.
I don't know the accuracy of this, and if they're your heroes, I'm sorry, but I've heard that Lewis and Clark were pretty brutal people.
Yeah.
Like the way they treated people and the way they dealt with problems along the way was almost
I
pretty
think-
savage.
I think I've heard that too, and obviously I wasn't there. If we had Twitter, then we'd know. But I just like the idea of like exploring territory that hasn't been done.
That
and,
would
like,
be so
setting
cool.
Out.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist unless you want to go underwater.
Yeah.
Space.
You know.
If
Shut
you
up,
believe,
Jeff.
If you believe in space.
If you believe in space, that is. So, okay, to our production team in the back, this story is not at all the poaching story that I sent pictures for. There was a new poaching story that I found more interesting that I'm gonna cover instead. So don't show pictures of geese because it won't make no sense. Okay, so there's these guys, right? We fish in Gladwin, Michigan, a lot. So that's why I saw this story. I was like, I got to talk about this.
But that's our spot, so don't go.
Yeah, Lake Lancer is where this was.
Yeah.
Lancelot.
Yeah, so
go there.
Not Lancelot, Lake Lancer.
There's a
which
Lake
is
Lancelot?
Yeah,
Oh.
Lake Lancer and Lake Lancelot is where we go all the time.
Oh.
They're connected to Lake Lancer.
I just guessed.
There's no bass there. Don't check. So anyhow, it's a private lake, anyways. So anyhow, this guy, 67 years old. The way I retain numbers is insane. But 67 years old.
Yeah, it's called Idiot Savant.
Thank you. I send the checks. So
I send the checks.
AJ always gives me the thumbs up on that one.
I love it. It's the best one.
But I just thought this one touched home because it's a lake that we fish all the time. And the people were reporting that this guy was going out multiple times a day, catching panfish and so on and so forth. So this guy went out. People had called on him. The DNR goes out and they see the boat and the car matching the description that the people gave. Guy comes up. They're like, "What do you got?" He's like, I just caught 13 bluegills so far," because it was panfish, which is also what I find like staggeringly interesting, but also for whatever reason makes me like reason with the dude a bit. But I'll get into that. So anyhow, and they're like 4 minutes until it's over. But anyhow, he comes up and he's like, "I only got 13 fish," and they're like, "Okay," and he's like, "I haven't reached my limit." And then they're like, "Okay," and they kind of just check him and stuff like that, check his license. He goes back out later on the DNR because that's like his calling card is like to go back out and go again. DNR goes and checks up on with him that time, and he comes back in and he's got I don't know, something like 20 fish this time, which obviously...
What's the limit?
25.
Okay.
So 25 a day. And then possession limit, I believe, is 50. A lot of people don't know this, but there's a possession limit in place, too, where, let's say, AJ, you're allowed 6 ducks a day, possession limit of 12, which means in your house, you better not have more than 12 ducks at any given time.
Possession meaning in the house.
In your freezer, too. A lot of people don't know that.
Something.
So, a lot of people don't know that.
I didn't.
I got my own feelings about it, but...
make sure you eat them. That's something.
Yeah,
but does it?
Yeah, I don't love that. But anyhow, so... They see him back out. He comes back, and he's got obviously over his legal limit. And they say he's like somehow invites him over to check his freezer or whatever to like prove that he only had the 13 back at the house, meaning that altogether he's claiming that he only had 24 for the day. And he'll take him back and show him the fish in the freezer because they're still whole. So he takes him back and goes and looks at them, and they find like 70 bags of bluegill fillets, which is so far over the legal limit.
Like a hoarder.
Yeah, literally. And they gave him a huge ticket, confiscated all the fish, and then once it's all done with the trials and stuff like that from the fish, it gets donated to a soup kitchen or a church or whatever. Hopefully. But it's like, man, dude, though, like, at what point is there a guy out there, and I'm not reasoning with breaking the law, but what I'm saying is, like, there's an old man, he's 67 years old, not saying 67's old. God, I'm just so politically correct today. But... that he's out there like fishing for his food, and don't get me wrong, he's not eating 25 a day, but I don't know what his capabilities are of ice fishing or whatever else, or when the bite shuts off. It's wrong to go out and take more than your legal limit. Those are put in place. They're put in place for a reason,
to protect
the fishery, so on and so forth. I don't want him overfishing. I don't want that, but it. Like, something triggered in me when I was reading it. Like, sometimes in movies you cheer for the bad guys because you got to know the bad guy better. I wasn't saying that I'm cheering for him, but it's like, man, if he was really going out to get his table food, and I don't know what his financial situation is, but I believe Gladwin is, like, the poorest county in the entire...
It's a tough one to get out of.
It's that county is, like, the poorest in Michigan or something like that, and it's, like, one of the poorest cities, and it's like, what if that was why? And, so I'm not saying what he did was right, but when I read the article, I was like, hey, get out of my lake, first of all, because I fished there.
Oh, yeah.
But number two, I was like, I don't know, man. If he was getting it for table food, what if he does?
Ethical point of
view. What if he
doesn't
do any other type of hunting or fishing, and that's just what he does, and that's what he eats, and what if he's, But I don't reason with him. I'm glad they put a stop to it and everything like that. It was just one of those stories that made me kind of...
It falls in that gray area where it's like, is it right? Is it not?
Like 70 bags is not just table.
That does sound like
point of view.
They're saying something. Yeah.
It's just like...
I don't know. I just kind of...
I've got a couple of stories like that.
Yeah, it was like, I don't agree with it, putting that out there, because I don't feel like getting blasted. But when I read it, knowing an old man was trying to get his food for his freezer, and he was filleting the fish, and they were in the freezer, and he was consistently eating them. It's like,
if he was.
What was his plan, though? Like, who cares? Come back to the house. I've only got 24. Those... I don't know how.
That's the other thing
there.
Is like what? How much did he know about possession?
He has memory. Like he has memory loss. Exactly. He can't remember.
Oh yeah.
So I guess
we'll pulled over my twin brother who was out here bluegill fishing earlier today.
I guess we'll never know. But thank you so much for tuning in to the Green Bay Outdoors podcast. We'll be back next week with another brand new episode on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on NRM Streamcast. Application through Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, basically anywhere you can find an application. Also check out their website to see how you can watch it. If you didn't get to hear it live or you don't get to listen to it live, check it out on the Green Bay Outdoors YouTube channel. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay green.